Welcome everybody to week 12 edition of the Commissioner's Address for the Drunken Fumble. Had a couple weeks off here, so I apologize for that. Been very, very busy. Let's jump right into last week's matchups. Lots happening now. Getting right into the Vinegar Strokes versus Villette's Vengeance. This was the barn burner of the week. Villette's Vengeance pulling it out by 0.14 points. 0.14. Vinegar Strokes had two players for Baltimore playing on Monday night, so they needed that kick to be no good, which it was, but then Baltimore went and took the ball all the way down for a kick six, block kick six, and finished off Vinegar Strokes' night. Bad decisions all around in this matchup. Both teams left a lot of points on the bench. Biggest one, C.J. Anderson, with 31.3 points sitting on the bench for Villette's Vengeance, and neither of us played our good quarterbacks. Both of our bench quarterbacks had better times on the bench there, so tough matchup there. Villette's Vengeance holds on to first, where I dropped down to 8th place. It was a long shot to make that 5th spot anyway, so I'm just going to have to hope for next week getting the high score. We'll jump right into Mitchell's team versus Luckjer Gurley. I'll take my time doing that. Mitchell's team coming out with the win here, 164 to 133, so quite decisive. Russell Wilson with the big one there. 5 passing touchdowns, 345 yards, and only 14 rush yards. So he didn't even put up numbers like he normally does for rush yards, but 345 and 5 touchdowns. 35 points for Russell Wilson, 29 points for OBJ, 19 points for Bryant. It was a big night for Mitchell's team. Luckjer Gurley had a decent performance from Tavon Austin, who's had some big games here recently, but pretty steady across the board, just nothing that really popped out and won him the week there. So Mitchell's team comes out with the win there. Getting into the Eskimo Brothers versus Browns Brothers, this was a blowout, 172 to 113. 113. I got more points than that in my non-PPR league this week, so that's just a shitty turnout there. Eskimo Brothers being led with Matthew Stafford on Thursday night. He had 5 touchdowns passed and 337 yards, so he had a big night finally. Brown has Dez Bryant back, who had 2 catches for 26 yards. He actually had 8 targets. He was just not good. Let's see who else is big here. Johnson from San Diego had 22 points for Browns Bombers. Carolina defense, 28 points. They had 2 touchdowns. Carolina defense had 2 touchdowns against Dallas. So that was big. So Eskimo Brothers holds on to 2nd. Browns Bombers is in 4th, which I believe they hang on to. Now into the blowout of the week, Bassett's Brawlers versus Habs Rule. I don't know if you'd call this a game, 177 to 88. 88 points. Bruce had a wide receiver in, Rashard Matthews, who didn't even play. So he had 0 points. Obviously, the Miami defense ended up with 3 points. Just shitty all around. Phillip Rivers, 300 passing yards, was actually low for him, but he had 4 touchdowns, which is a little bit high. So he had a good day, 28 points. Doug Baldwin, 38 points. Nobody would have guessed that. He had 3 touchdowns on 6 catches for 145 yards. So you can see how Russell Wilson got most of his points that night. 3 touchdowns to Doug Baldwin. So that pretty much sums up that one. Not a whole bunch to talk about there. Bassett's Brawlers in 6th, and Habs Rule stay in 12th place. Jumping into Cincinnati Carnage and the waiver wire. Cincinnati pulling out the win here, 167 to 121. Big performance from Calvin Johnson. Him and Stafford connected for 3 touchdowns on 8 catches. And D'Angelo Williams being solid again, 88 reception yards, 7 catches, 1 rushing touchdown. So he ended up with 24 points. Big night for him. Antonio Gates, 21 points. He's been huge since he got back from his suspension there. Waiver wire did have a big performance from Jeremy Maclin, who had a big role to play in Kansas City's win against Buffalo, 30 to 22. 160 yards on 9 catches and a touchdown, so he was huge, converting 3rd downs all over the place. Eddie Lacy finally coming to play, maybe. Fat Eddie, 105 rushing yards and a touchdown. Also 4 catches, so 21 points, but not enough for the waiver wire, who is now in 9th. Cincinnati Carnage holds on to 3rd. So that's a big win for Cincinnati Carnage and for Brown Bombers, holding on to 3rd and 4th. Getting into the last matchup of the week here, 4th and Lynches versus the Underminers. 4th and Lynches coming out 166-135. Big performance from Brandon Marshall. 34 points. He had 2 touchdowns on 9 catches. Underminers did have a good performance from Sammy Watkins, who came to play. He had 2 touchdowns and 158 yards. Travis Benjamin had a big night for the Underminers, but it was too much. 4th and Lynches had Landry from Vinegar Strokes from a trade earlier in the season, who has panned out better for 4th and Lynches thus far, as Brady has lost all of his receivers. So Landry, 35.9 points. He had 165 reception yards on 13 catches. 13 catches, that is huge. So that is the roundup from last week. So I'm just going to get into the standings as of this week. First place, we got Villette's Vengeance at 9-3. Also at 9-3, Eskimo Brothers at 2nd. Cincinnati Carnage at 7-5. Brown Bombers at 7-5. Mitchell's team at 7-5. Bassett's Brawlers at 7-5. And 4th and Lynches at 6-6. So those 5 teams are competing right now for spots 3, 4, and 5. So that'll be some good matchups here this week. 4th and Lynches is 6-6. He's a win behind. But if he wins this week and Browns Bombers loses, he's pretty much guaranteed a spot because he has a lot of points. So 4th and Lynches can definitely wrap up that 5th spot. The other thing is, looks like two of those teams are actually playing each other. Bassett's Brawlers and Browns Bombers. So the winner of that one will take it. So the winner of Bassett's Brawlers and Browns Bombers will take a playoff spot. So that's a big matchup for you guys. So the winner of that game is going to have a spot. And the other one is kind of up for grabs there. So remember, once all 5 spots are set after this week, we figure out which teams are out of the playoffs. And the highest score from this week of those teams will get that 6th and final spot. So everybody has a chance right now, except for Habs Rule, basically, because he's got 1,380 total points, which is just terrible. Sorry about the interruptions there, guys. I've had a few people come into my office here. So make sure you're putting your biggest lineups out this week, especially if you're in the bottom 5 teams, pretty much me, Waiver Wire, Luck Gurley, Underminers, and Habs Rule. Put out your flyers. We need to have a big week if we want to make the playoffs, so go crazy. 4th and Lynches, Bassett's Brawlers, Mitchell's teams, Browns Bombers, and Cincinnati Carnage. You guys are having a big week here, so pretty much a win will almost guarantee you in. Pretty close. The only one that it might not is Bassett's Brawlers because of his lower points, and maybe Mitchell's team because of his lower points. But 4th and Lynches can steal either of your spots with a win and you guys losing. So it's going to be a good, interesting week here. I'm quite excited to figure it out. I can't believe we're in the last week of our fantasy season, regular season already. Kind of a sad day, but maybe I'll get more done on Sundays now that I'm not watching 10 straight hours of football. Probably not. So yeah, we're getting into week 13. Good luck, everybody. Keep playing that waiver wire. All hail the Commish.